everyone. This is financial sharktress Galit Sadiq, and I am here with Hardy Brooklyn, and he is a life coach. And we're going to be talking about why a good financial foundation is key for life changes and for accomplishing anything that you want to do in your life. Hardy, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got into this?
Sure. My background and how I got into this. Well, basically, all my life, I've been the one that everybody's gone to and asked for help or guidance. Even when I was in like major times of crisis or even unable to figure it out for myself, I was always the one that kind of went to me. And I started my journey on the career of business and life development in kosher food. I started as a kosher caterer a long time ago, a very long time ago. I was still in high school.
Wow.
And when I graduated college, I kind of was like, wow, I have this paper degree. I don't have to go meet the bread man. I'm going to get like a real job. My life's going to be so much better. It's going to be so much easier. The hours are going to be so much better. I'm going to start my own technology consulting firm. And I went out and I started a technology consulting firm. And I started that firm with another partner called Dan Kupferberg. And after about a year, I bought him out. But as that firm grew to achieve the same amount of revenue stream for me as my previous pizzeria slash kosher caterer I did, my hours ended up becoming astronomical. I didn't have that quality of life that they promised me that I would get from college and from all of these things. And I still didn't really know anything about money. Fast forward, I decided that the lifestyle was not working for me. So I decided I was going to become a business consultant. And I would start introducing people to ventures, VC funds, different aspects of business needs back in the 2000s. And I was doing really well and things were moving along. Stock market crashed. I moved into a different sector and I was still helping people. But what I felt I was doing was, I felt what everything that I was doing was just like putting a Band-Aid on top of a problem.
Yeah.
Everybody had a fundamental problem with their business or how to do a launch or this wasn't working. And how can we fix that problem without thinking about what's really causing the uncomfortableness, the disconnect, the unwillingness to move forward correctly.
Yeah.
And I started taking a bunch of classes, a bunch of my friends like, oh, you'd make a great life coach. And more of my friends started asking me about it. And earlier this year, right before COVID, I started taking some different online life coaching certifications with a number of different schools. And at the same time, I picked up a couple of people that were customers that were like, oh, my friend's like, oh, you're a life coach now? I need to transition my life. Can I talk to you once a week? So I started working with him. And then I have another girl that lives in North Carolina that I'm also on a weekly coaching basis with, that we're trying to figure out for them what's preventing them from achieving what they want to achieve in life.
Yeah.
They're both smart people.
And is that normally what you do? You basically, because a lot of people might not know what a life coach does or what it is. Is that normally what you do? You kind of like talk to somebody and figure out what direction they should be going in with their life or with their career or all of the above?
All of the above. For me, when I'm life coaching someone, most of the time it's trying to figure out what those preconceived notions are of everything and how do we kind of clear those out and kind of let us live our lives and not have our sexual preferences be something that's told to us by television, or our dating lifestyle be told to us by television or from high school. A lot of people in today's day and age are very affected by the media. And more of what I'm doing for people is kind of bringing reality to the table.
Okay.
Because what we look at in TV and in the media is a certain way of living that's been created, that sells tickets, that makes money, that sells advertising and sells product. Where people like me, we live a life that has no connection to what is on TV.
Yeah.
There's no connection to probably yours as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's very, very few representations of the kind of work that I do on TV. Yeah.
Not even the work that you do, your lifestyle
Yeah.
and my
My,
lifestyle. There's very little representation of it because it doesn't make sponsors happy because the way it was sold to them in the past. Because we are the people, and I really have to help my clients look for what are the preconceived notions, what are the obstacles that they're putting in front of themselves, and what information are they getting from the media that's reinforcing those obstacles and those preconceived notions.
yeah. And how how open do you feel like your clients are when they first start to kind of going through this with you, to going through the process, to shedding that preconceived notion of what their life is supposed to look like?
I'd say even not my clients, but talking to other people that do the same thing that I do and in the discussion forums, a lot of people are open to it in concept. And then once we start talking about it, for the first, bit, I don't know, depending on the person, it might be 45 minutes, it might be 15 minutes, they're very against it. Very against it. They're like, I don't do that. I don't do this. I don't do that. There's no baggage from my mom. There's no baggage from my brother. There's no baggage from my priest that used to rape me. So all of these things that the people say are in there, but as it gets presented to them differently or from a different perspective, they then start to see them. Like I didn't even see most of my preconceived notions until I took 3 life coaching classes. Like I was like, wow, this one thing was really deep. Nobody had ever caught it. And like until I really had time to go a deep dive into myself, I wasn't able to create a lot of disappointment, which was because I had an expectation on what something was instantly being turned into anger. And why was that? Well,
Yeah.
that's because that's how my mom is. And
Yeah.
that's how my mom always related to me when I was a kid.
So it's almost like a therapy, because I feel like sometimes that's what financial coaching is as well, is it's almost like this deep dive into your subconscious, and again all your preconceived notions or your ingrained mindsets, on how you handle money, how you interacted with it, how people in your life interacted with it. And it's almost like therapy, like going through it, bringing it all up to the surface, and then figuring out how to change the way you react to it. So does that sound like along the lines of what you do?
Pretty much. It's pretty much this very close to it, except we're just doing it from I don't really get involved in the financial side of it.
Right. And I know when we were, talking about the topic for this show, we were discussing, what a financial foundation, how it affects life coaching, and why it's so important for um, to bring up with your clients, or why it's so important for life coaching. Do you want to talk a little bit about that from your
Yes.
perspective? Yep.
And I think that there's a lot in that. For a lot of my clients, they don't really understand the whole money picture. They understand, like, even the ones like, I'm an investment banker and I know money. They don't take a step back and understand how money relates to emotion. They
Mm,
don't take a look at how money relates to happiness, because having more money doesn't always equate to being happier.
yeah.
And having less money doesn't always equate to being sadder. They're two totally disconnected things. And depending on where you live, there's a lot of good safety nets out there.
Hmm.
For a lot of my clients, I personally feel, and from just the little discussions that I've had with them about money, is that once they have a better understanding of what that actual risk is to take if they're going to go out and switch their job,
Yeah.
move to a bigger apartment, to do these different things, if they actually had a greater understanding of the risk reward and the happiness reward, there'd be a lot more better choices being made. And I think that people make a lot of choices in life around money because they're afraid.
Yeah. And do you think it's more about not understanding money or not having like a safety net or a cushion? What do you usually see?
I'd say because I talk to a lot of people outside of the country as well, I think it's a combination. I think that people here in America understand money a lot less as far as how it relates to their day-to-day life than people that live outside of America,
Okay.
even though we have a crappier safety
Yeah.
net,
Yeah.
which is kind of a contradiction to me in terms or concepts.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it's not only a crappier safety net, but also we haven't, this is not something that we teach in schools. We just kind of expect people to know what to do or to model after their parents. Like it's supposed to be taught at home or through life experiences. But that is probably the worst way to learn it because if you do not have a home environment where somebody was financially literate or had a good money mentality, then you don't know anything and you don't know how to deal with, we have such, they're simple but yet complex systems for people to understand, like, having credit and credit cards versus debit cards and debt and, student loans and this and that. And like, it's just, there's so much. And we haven't taught anyone how to understand it. And with just basic financial literacy, I think that's where the rest of the world is kind of coming in. Not only do they have the better safety net, um, but they are teaching a little bit more um, about money and how to use it and how to work with it in schools.
Yeah, I definitely they do that. I think that they respect it a lot more. There's a lot more respect for money. There's a lot less consumer debt.
Hmm.
You
So
know,
that's
most of my friends, I don't like my friends in Germany and Australia, they don't have consumer debt. All my friends in New York have consumer debt. Um,
interesting. I like that word. I definitely like the idea of having respect for money, um, because one of the biggest things that I preach is being intentional with money. And if you respect something and you respect the value that it has, then you are generally more intentional with the way that you treat it. So I think that's a really great word, respect for money.
and the way that our TV shows and our government and our politicians talk about money, use money, and use it as bartering tables, there's no respect at any level in this country for it that I've seen.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the news that came out today about all the PPP loan money. I mean, there's just no respect, even at that level. It's like, let's give this money to some foreign corporations and not give it to our own citizens that are starving.
Yeah.
So we have a negative boundary and a negative belief that unfortunately is constantly being reinforced by media and the TV. So what we have to do as coaches is we have to work with people to constantly remind them that these beliefs that are being reminded and created, whether it's about how to treat money, or if you don't have money, you could just go rob a bank or create some big heist. I mean, I just watched a show that was based on that. And it was just like, no big deal. We'll just go rob the NASCAR raceway and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And we have to take a step back and we have to fundamentally look at when we create the media and when we talk these stories, how do we, how do I put it? How do we make sure that we're creating the proper message for people?
Yeah.
Because when I look at people and how they live their lives and their expectation is to life, they try to model it over the TV shows they like. They're
Yeah.
not modeling it over what they want to do or they like to do in their heart.
So how do you get people past that? What's the process?
It's asking people a lot of questions because you basically what I've learned I have to do is I have to ask the same question maybe 100 different ways because they have to see it from many different perspectives because they have to see that wait a second, this is not the end of the world, this is not the end of the world. And a lot of people have a belief, a fundamental belief or a limiting belief that it is the end of the world because that's how it was taught to them and from when they were a little kid. And that's why we have things like racism in this country, because once you meet somebody that's not your race, you don't hate the race anymore.
Yeah.
So we have people that have people like how do you, I don't understand how people can hate people that they've never met, they've never had any interaction with, but it's so deep and it's so systemic in their core being that it's something it's a limiting belief. It's something that was berated to them when they were an infant before they even were consciously aware of it. And they don't know why it's there. And that's really hard to break.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like in all of these things it's really just delving down into the depths of what you know about yourself and also the what you're unconscious and trying to kind of extrapolate what is really going on, what are the hidden motivations behind everything that you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
And
being aware of them.
yeah, and I think that's really the only way to heal, right? You
Yep.
have to be aware of it, you have to unearth it, you have to rip off the band-aid, and it usually hurts. I uh, it's horrible like saying this because it makes people like fear getting coaching, but like I have so many sessions that are either begin in tears, end in tears, or they're like bawling throughout the entire session, but it's almost like it has to be released, it has to be unearthed, it has to be that level of uncomfortable, otherwise you can't change.
I completely agree. I don't feel that tears are bad. Tears are always like, there's nothing wrong with crying, and people have to really not be ashamed to that. Like, that's an emotion, and that's like a natural thing that your body does. Like, and for somebody that was for a long time not a crier and didn't use that emotion, I learned over time that that's a necessary emotion, and there's nothing wrong. It's not bad to cry. It's not showing a weak man. It's not showing a lesser man. It's not showing that you're emotional. It's natural, and you might not even cry because something emotional. You might cry because something in your eye or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I try to encourage a lot of my clients, especially the male clients. They don't want to cry. They don't
Yeah.
want to have somebody see them cry. They don't want to have somebody hear them cry. And but they'll cry about money. They're okay letting me talk to me about, oh, I just lost all this money in the market today, and then they'll
Really?
bitch and cry and complain about that. And they need to
Really?
kind of take a step back and they need to get through those hard things. And somebody like me or somebody like you, the first couple of times, what I find is it's not even fixing the problem. It's just being aware that that boundary is there, that trigger is there, that preconceived notion is there, that trauma is there, and we need to start looking at it because how we look at it is going to be very different for every single one and for every single person depending on what they're working on and what they're doing and what state of life they're in.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's it's interesting. I kind of want to go back a little bit to the financial foundation that,
Okay.
because I thought it was like super interesting that you said that men are more likely to cry about money or like money that they've lost than anything else that's going on wrong in their lives. Like, why do you think that is? Why do you think that money is kind of okay to cry about, but not anything else in your life?
I don't know. And I think the reason why they're doing it with me is one, it's a confidential environment. And they know that I would never slip up or never have or they would never bring up the money conversation in public that would allow me to breach the confidentiality and talk about it. Because,
Mm,
like, XYZ person who just lost $2 million in the market is not going to go tell his friends that when a lot of people's wealth is really fictitious right now. It's in the
yeah.
market. So you have people who are either trust fund kids or people that are day traders or people that are living on the edge of, that are living above their means, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to make money in different ways. So that's why they come in, because they are placing a value of money on their life. And the more money they have, the happier they're going to be. And as I work with at least one person, his value of money is still there, but he's now starting to value other things in his life. Like he's valuing spending time with his kids or even talking to his son on the phone
Right.
and, maybe going on a date during COVID or something like that. So he's starting to look at other things and it's like, well, maybe I don't need to work 100-hour day.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely a part of this idea of having a financial foundation. This idea, this notion, this understanding that money is not the end all be all. It should not be what you're striving for every single day to the detriment of everything else in your life. Um, it's something that having the financial literacy, having that foundation, understanding that money is the tool that allows you to live the way that you want to live is, I guess, the ultimate goal when I coach my clients of like, this is why financial literacy, this is why a financial foundation is so important. It's because not because you're going to make more money and you're going to be super rich and you're going to be this and this and this and this. It's because you are going to be able to decide what you want and live the way that you want to live and make sure that you enjoy every dime that you have now and like set up your kids for the future. I know so many people that make like 20 to 40,000 a year and they live better than people that are making 150,000 a
Yep.
year. It's all
Yep.
about the way that you look at it. It's all about the money mentality. Like they've got, I know that it was my case with when I graduated from college and I was living with my ex, and my ex was making like 100,000 a year, and I was making like less than 50,000 a year, but I had the savings and I was going on vacations and he wasn't, and it was just like this total weird kind of shift where it's like I should be the one that's struggling. I should be the one that's poor. I should be the one like feeling like I can't go out to restaurants or can't go out for drinks. But it was never like that. I always felt like I I had enough and like it was abundant and I could continuously make money. And it's also, one of the reasons that I'm in business and one of the reasons that I've gotten to where I am because I never let that mentality kind of slow me down of money will come. Money will come if I keep going forward. If I It's okay to quit this job because I'll find another one and I'll find a better one. I
Yep.
don't want to stay in this toxic environment just for money. That was always something that was really big for me, of like this idea that there was no amount of money that would allow me to stay in a toxic environment. And I think that's
I
the thing that a lot of people are missing. They're
and
so
that's a
scared.
and they're so scared. And the reason why they're so scared is because when you turn on the TV, when you pick up the newspaper, those are the underlying stories that they're constantly being told. You don't see on TV people are living in sitcoms, in miserable lifestyles, in miserable jobs, and we make whole TV shows, whole movies about people, and we honor those people, and we look up to those people that write those things, and they don't depict what life should really be like. It should be, if you go to work and you're treated like shit and you're miserable at work, you should be able to go into work and say, you know what, I'll find something better and leave, because we can go get unemployment and we can find something on better. And you know what? We might have to find something as an interim solution, but we'll be able to manifest what we want if we start not thinking that we can. And a
Yeah.
lot of it for people is, even with money, oh, I'm not good with money. I can't do money. I can't understand money. I don't know money. Or it's too complicated. Or the government's always changing the rules of the game all the time. Or whatever it might be. It's because that's what we're told we're supposed to believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And it's true. You are kind of told that throughout your life. I can't tell you how many times I've heard I'm not good at math. Like I don't know numbers. I can't do this. And it's just it's so basic and it's so ingrained in us as humans that that this is something hard, that has to be difficult, that only like geniuses are able to understand money or get rich or whatever. And
so
it's so
is that a
wrong.
cultural thing, or is that a human thing?
So it's interesting because nature wise, we are actually kind of hardwired to understand math. Everything in our lives revolves around math. Even if you're an artist, symmetry is math. Angles are math. You you kind of just it's something that's very natural to us. But because nurture, we're told over and over that this, I guess I would say, like the human condition of like being taught how to be a human. We're taught that this is too difficult for our minds to understand. And I know that especially as a girl growing up, like being good at math was something unheard of. And I was actually, I've heard other stories, but I have been told of like, don't worry about math. Girls are good at reading and writing. You don't have to
Yep.
worry about math. And that was not how it was. Thankfully, that was not how it was in my household. It was like, no, you know how to do this. This is like basic stuff. You're going to do this, and it's not hard. And I think that's what kind of gave me, always I had to constantly prove that I was actually good at math, or that I could be this, or that I could do this. And I've had female clients come to me over the years who have said like they remember teachers telling them like, don't bother, girls aren't good at math. And I feel
Yeah,
like that's something, like those are the things that we need to work against. Those are the things that kill the financial foundation. And I'm sure that it's happening to boys too, right? I just know it from the female experience, and I'm sure there are so many stories from the male experience.
I think a lot of them are not really told. I haven't really talked to them specifically about the math situation, But a lot of times in life, they're told that, like, oh, your financial advisor will take care of it. Don't worry about it. Or this is the way that it's done. Like you go out, you get an IRA, you put your $2,000 a year in, and that's it. Or you get whatever your 401k is from your job. And if your job isn't good, you just bite your tongue, suck it up, and you keep going because you've got your retirement and it's tied to your job. And people don't understand that they can take that retirement and it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to their job. And because they don't understand things like that. They don't understand that things can move around, or they don't even know how to move them around.
Yeah.
And when I see people and I look at how little understanding of the system there is, it really, to me, it makes me want to look at what's the belief, like what did you learn when you were growing up to think you can't do so many things, or you can't understand so many things, and you can't make choices for yourself as an intelligent person when you really should be able to.
Right. I think that's like the place that I try to get all my clients to is I want you to understand enough to be able to make a choice by yourself. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it yourself. If you want to use a financial advisor to, or, you know, you trust a specific banker or whatever it is, but at least understand what they're doing. At least
Yep.
understand how to look at your, like, know what your net worth is, know how to look at it yourself. You don't have to do it yourself, but at least like understand what's going on, because so many times we hear of stories where people are getting taken advantage of day in and day out because they don't think to look at it, or if they do think to look at it, it's been made so complicated that they have no idea what they're looking at.
And that's really what it comes down to. And it's not even just money, it's everything in our lives. We're basically told, don't think, just do this, whether it's our job telling us to do this, whether it's our politician, whether it's our religious leaders. They're really trying to take out and take away like the thought process and making the understanding of, we're not even, when I was taught in school, which was eons ago, we were taught not the answers to the questions, the fundamental principles under the questions. Like, why does red color be red? Why is blue red? Why are these things the way they are? Why is 2 plus 2 is 4? And now, when I look at what my kids were taught in school, and I have two kids in college, and they're not taught a lot of that information. It's just a void. It's like, how do you figure out the answer from the question without understanding the concepts underneath it?
Yeah.
And whether it's financial stuff or civics or normal day-to-day home economics, those things in history were things that people used to be gotten taught in school, and now they need people like us to go to because we're so set on achieving a better grade and achieving this and achieving that, because that's all tied to then the money,
Yeah.
which we don't understand why they're even connected or how they're connected for most people.
Yeah.
So people go on this tracing of riches and money and money and money, but where are they going? They're going to college, they're going to a PhD, and they're going to get all of these things, and they're racing to get it. And then they get their PhD in education, and what happens? There's a great disappointment because now they're making $20,000 as a public school teacher because
Yeah.
we don't, as a country, value education.
Yeah.
So now they're like, wait a second, I just did all this stuff, and I didn't understand how the money behind it worked. Oops.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things of we right now are teaching people to accept and to follow the status quo rather than to question. Because I think that in general, with everything in life, you should be questioning it constantly, questioning why you do things the way you do them, questioning why you're feeling a certain way about something, questioning, just questioning every piece of your life. And I don't mean like, to the detriment of your health, but
No,
like to even have it come up in your head every once in a while of like, hey, I've been doing this way for a really long time. Why? Like, is
right.
this the way that it needs to be done? Like, someone just tell me that it needs to be done that way? And I see this all the time with um, sometimes like with my employees, or with I've worked over the years with like temp agencies, so like people send in temps all the time, and I'm just like, why are you doing it that way? And they can't tell me. And I'm like, they're like, oh, because it's always been done that way.
That's the
And
best answer.
yeah, I just sit there and I'm like, but why? Like, what is it about this process that it needs to be done this way? And like, take me back to the beginning. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? And let's figure out a better way to do this so that,
And
yeah, because especially with like, I feel like temps, they're used to working for like big corporations. And because I'm a small business, like, I'm all about efficiency, right? We got to
right.
like bang things out because everybody's got to get paid. And, in order for me to keep up my business and to keep my employees, and have their families fed, and things have to keep moving. There isn't room for these big inefficiencies. There isn't room to spend, you know, 2 years on a project that should take 2 months. There just isn't that
There isn't.
leeway. And so you have to be able to question everything and think about why you're doing it and how you're doing it. And that's something that we just aren't teaching. We aren't teaching people to question
We're
anything.
also, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, we're also penalizing people that are questioning.
Yeah.
In most of when I was working in corporate America, I worked with companies like GE, Siemens, Con Edison, LIPA, PSC&G, and there were certain ways that things were done, and things were done a certain way because they were done that way. And to me, a lot of the things that they did were shit. And I would go on a project that I would figure, oh, this is going to be a 1 hour project. And because of the fundamental way that they worked as a company, no, I wasted a whole day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm an independent contractor. So you're really like, come on, let's kind of figure out a better, more efficient way of doing this. And they're like, well, why bother? It's not my money.
Right.
And we look at them, but they're a public utility. So it is their money, but we don't treat money even at that level with any respect. So people need somebody like me and somebody like you to kind of just to get them to start to respect themselves and look at money from a point of view of, hey, this is really something that is just a barter mechanism, or however you want to
Yeah.
kind of put it. But they have to understand that their life is not revolving around it. And there are times where it's okay to question somebody when it looks like they're being inefficient.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely had that same experience in corporate America of like trying to improve things, and I was literally told that I was too serious.
Yep.
Like, no, no,
You're
no,
gonna
just
make us you're gonna make us look bad.
yeah, like ease up. You don't have to do it so fast. You don't have to do it so quickly. This project will take months. Like, what you mean I could do it in 5 hours and it'll be done and it'll be
Yep.
perfect. But yeah, it was always like this getting ahead by doing as little as possible, and then the people who were questioning, who were trying to be more efficient, who were trying to, I guess, shake things up, those are the ones that get penalized in
Yep.
in that type of environment, and there's never any innovation.
And that's the American culture is Don't disrupt the status quo. Go do your little thingy and don't be happy and don't really have true happiness inside. The girl that I work with in North Carolina, she's way happier today than 3 months ago. She's not richer. She's actually poorer. But she's happier because she now understands where things are coming from. She now understands how to interact with her parents and why she was afraid to confront them. It was not about even confronting them. It was understanding why she was afraid to confront them. And then how do we frame it into a positive experience moving forward?
Yeah.
And we need to constantly be doing that with money and people is like, hey, what's the purpose of a credit card? What's the purpose of a charge card? What's the purpose of a line of credit? What's the purpose of cash? What are the differences and pros and cons to using all of those things? And those all might be different for a different person,
Yeah.
depending on their financial goal, their financial onset, depending on substances they do, how much impulse buying they can possibly do. I mean, all of those things.
Yeah. And
I
it
mean,
honestly, I feel like it comes down to who do you want to be? How do you want
right,
to live your life? Like, and that's where you come in, right? Like, get to the bottom before you start like this whole decision making process about how you want to spend your money or how you're going to be intentional with your money. It first comes your part. What do you want to be? Who do you want to be? How do you want to live? What do you
correct.
want to
What is
accomplish?
your essence? What is your being? What do you want to take forward in life? What do you want to change? How do you want to be? How do you want to be perceived by other people? Because the way that we're perceiving each other is so everybody's the same. I mean, people like me and you, we dress a little differently. We're a little bit loud out there. I have purple hair, a purple beard, purple glasses. And when I sit on the subway or I sit on an airplane and I look at all the other men around me, I stand out and I shouldn't. And the reason why I stand out is because everybody's going to Costco and buying the same shirt. Everybody's going to Macy's and buying the same pants. There's no I mean, the amount of people that are making custom shirts out there is so much smaller. And we're then taking that money and we're disrupting that process, in my opinion. I would much rather be able to walk down the block, go to a local person that made a really cool shirt locally and it was in limited supply and it lasted me for more than 50 washes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's definitely, I'm hoping is kind of this time period is a resurgence of that, of like this breaking down the corporate structures and thinking, you know, more about local and small businesses. And that was kind of the trajectory of how things were going up until this pandemic. And I feel by forcing these shutdowns, which had to be done for health reasons. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say that we shouldn't have shut down businesses because I got COVID and it wasn't fucking fun. And like I to this day I'm like I don't want to kill anybody's grandma. So
Right.
I totally get this, but like a lot of these small businesses were kind of forced to shut down and may never reopen. And I feel like as a society, we have to kind of remind ourselves that this is like actually what we want, that this is like the lifeblood. These small businesses that weren't able to get the huge PPP loans or the huge loans because they just didn't know how to do it, or they
It
weren't.
gobbled up.
Yeah, they got gobbled up by the bigger guys. Like these are the people that we actually have to invest in. The small businesses, the innovators, the people that are trying something different, that are questioning, that are trying to build something of their own. Like that's who we should be buying from,
And
especially
and we
now.
have to fundamentally change our belief system because right now we believe that if we go to that department store, if we go to that Amazon and we make that purchase and we have the FedEx guy deliver it because we don't want to leave the house, great, all fine and dandy. But there are other countries that have allowed those mom and pop stores to open up way before the big department stores. So those mom and pop stores, because they're small and social distancing can, and people can respect each other and behave, there's no reason why all of those mom and pop stores can't open and have one person come in the store or two people come in the store at a time. They never had hundreds of people to begin with.
Yeah.
So all of these stores that are saying, "Oh, my capacity," I was just watching on NBC where this high-end fitting store was complaining about their capacity. I walked by that store a million times. I've never seen anybody in that store ever, and I walk by the store a lot. And I've like actually stood outside that store because the air conditioning comes out in the summertime and like repeatedly smoke bowls, which is a good amount of time. And there's nobody in the store. And then you have this person, because it's a rich person's store, complaining on TV on how nobody's going to come in and his traffic has already been reduced by you had three customers. So there's no problem with COVID for you.
Yeah.
You have to look, and that's what's happening is people are not looking at it for what it really is. People are looking at it for what can I get away with? What can I make on it? How can I express my political opinion? How can I express my independence? When I go out and I look at how many people don't observe the things that are just common courtesy. Let's not take masks. How about sneezing on other people? I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of people that I've seen in the past 3 days on subway or mass transit without a mask, coughing and sneezing in public, was not cool.
Yeah.
I mean, get off the bus, get off the train, put a mask on. I don't care if you cough, if you got a mask on, you can cough all you want.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to that word you used before of respect, right? Like it's respect for a fellow human being, it's respect for something other than yourself. It's, caring about your fellow human.
Right.
Um, Whether it's like, wearing a mask or just being, you know, covering your mouth when you cough like that,
Right.
or not coming to work sick, right? I can't tell you. Um i i remember at the beginning of this whole pandemic, there was an entire like post office, I think it was in Rockaway, that basically somebody, her kids were sick and she was sick and she just kept coming to work throughout the whole pandemic and the entire office ended up getting sick. And like that was also, that's not just the office, that was also everybody's mail that went through
Yep.
that station was also infected. And that's just someone not being respectful of their surroundings, not being respectful of other humans.
Yep.
And I don't think that that's really the way that we want to live as people.
And as a coach, that's the biggest obstacle that I have is that just teaching people to respect themselves at every level, not just in money, not just in sex, not just as in general, is getting harder and harder when everything that we look at in the media is the opposite. And when we talk to people in real life, it's the opposite. Because we as an American culture have become so selfish and so self-absorbed that it's all about me, me, me. What do I want next? What's my next shiny silver object that I can go chase after? And I definitely admit that, like when I'm tripping, I'm chasing those shiny silver objects. But that's when I'm tripping. I'm not doing that all the time, and I'm not setting my expectation of life to do that all the time.
Yeah. 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 I wholeheartedly agree. Like we have to, it's, I guess it's our job as coaches to kind of bring this to light, and also our job as humans to kind of remind the rest of the humans of like, this is not the way that we want to live as people. This is not the best way to live.
And it's a very touchy topic. When I talk to my clients, I can use certain types of languages and certain types of words about it. When I talk to my friends, I have to use different types of words and different types of language. And then when I'm in public, oh my God, I have to be so careful and so stepping on ice. Girl got on the subway without a mask. Figured I'd say, hey, listen, you're literally the only person on the car without a mask, and the verbal abuse that I got from that person, and then the person that went to defend me, the verbal abuse that she got was not appropriate or even in scale to it. And when I looked at it, and after when she got off at the next stop, because she was then being abused by a bunch of the people in the car, the old lady next to me said, oh, she was acting just like the president. It made me so proud. We now have a war. And these are going to be battle scars, war of the stupid people.
Yeah.
And that put it all into context to me. Is this woman sat there on the train, watched this lady refuse to put a mask on, tell me and this other woman, and then have multiple other people in the car, that we were risking her life, threatening her rights, taking away her rights, all of these things, which are none of which are true. Yet she fundamentally believes them because she's constantly being told those beliefs. So when we're talking about money, it's got to be so hard for you to work with people about money when everything is the opposite in TV commercials.
Yeah.
Because we have no positive, even when we're setting boundaries, correct? When we look at TV, oh, get the girl drunk, then you can have your way with him. Get the guy drunk, then you can have your way with him. That's
Yeah.
rape. Flat out rape. Yet it's okay in TV, or trick the girl into falling in love with you, or trick the guy into falling in love with you. I just watched two movies that were supposed to change, and the fundamental underlying stories didn't change. It was always like trickery, deceit, and those aren't really good qualities. Because when we
Yeah.
do trickery, when we do deceit, and we do it around money, who does it end up hurting? The
Us.
person that's doing it.
Yeah.
And it's usually themselves, because they're
Exactly.
tricking themselves and they're deceiving themselves because they have a preconceived notion, and then they have a worry about money, or they don't have an understanding to go with that worry.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. And yeah, we have to start like teaching and gearing people towards respect, and towards respecting themselves, respecting each other, respecting money, just and like looking again at all of our, like you said, media, at the authority figures, and just actually questioning, is what they are doing what I want, what I believe in, what I value, what I want, how I want to live. And I think that in most cases, we're just fooling ourselves into thinking that the grass is greener on their pasture, and not realizing that we have way more.
I completely agree with that. As someone that, when I was doing my technology and business consulting, I spent a lot of time in that other world, and none of them were happy. There was so much arguing, there was so much bitterness. Everything was done from a point of view of negativity.
Yeah.
And I try to work with my clients to take that point of view of negativity away and start working with them and looking as I want to do this, not I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to have money. I deserve to have money. I respect myself. All of these positive statements make a big difference. And it's very difficult for us as coaches and even therapists to constantly work with people when the second they put the TV on, the second they put the radio on, the second they open up the newspaper, the second they look at Facebook, the second they do any of these things, you're always barraged with all of the bad things in life, because us as a society, for some reason, thinks that that's better than the good things.
Yeah.
I would so much rather hear about all the positive things that were happening in New York City this 4th of July weekend than all of the bad things. because all of the bad things get publicized, more is going to happen because I'm going to get in the news and I'm going to get in the paper because that's somewhat of a mentality of those people.
Yeah.
And if we didn't publicize it and we didn't reward it and we didn't celebrate it, including embezzlement, money laundering, and all the bad money things that happen, if we don't celebrate that, it would be so much easier to educate the people on the positive sides of it and the good things about it.
Yeah. It's so true. And I just want to be cognizant of time. And since we're getting close to 10 p.m., and I want, if people want to work with you, if people want to delve deeper into this and work with a life coach, how do they get in touch with you?
So they can get in touch with me a couple of different ways. One is they can reach me on the web at hardybrooklyn.com. That's my Hardy Brooklyn persona page. My business page is boxofrain.com, boxofrain.com. You can reach me at fun@hardybrooklyn.com is my email, or any of the links from either of the two. I'm Hardy Brooklyn on Facebook. I'm hardybrooklyn.nyc on Instagram. And you can get to I do a weekly VCast, which I'm working through and just started with Miss Michelle, that we're kind of talking about a bunch of these things and hopefully improving over time. So hopefully you guys will check that out as well. And
Yeah.
that's basically how to get in touch with me. I do one-on-one sessions, I do group sessions, and right now I do most of the stuff through Zoom.
Okay. So we can definitely, I'll put the links on this video. That way that people can get in touch with you. It was amazing having you on. I really enjoyed this, and hopefully I will be on your VCast soon. So everybody look out for that too. Look out
Whenever
for
you're
his,
ready. We
yes,
just shoot in person now.
yes. And then, as always, if you need to contact me, Financial Sharktress Galit Sadiq on Facebook, financial_sharktress on Instagram, or you can reach out to me by email, galit@financialsharktress.com. Have an amazing Money Monday. Thank you so much, Hardy, for
Thank
being on the
you.
show and talking about this. I know that it's not an easy topic to talk about, and especially, to kind of explain what it is that you do, and in like a really concise, small. There's so many things that go into it. So I really appreciate how eloquent and concise you were
Thank
as
you.
far as like how you do what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have an amazing Money Monday and a great night.
Bye.